Once installed, the Excel reporting configuration file can be found in the installation directory, normally by default. It's in C, Program File 86, ACL, Apps, Plc Data, .login service files. The Excel reporting file is where the controllers and their associated tags to report on are configured. Also, in this file, two reporting modes can be set up, and they can work together hand in hand. They do not conflict. One mode is the automatic reporting, which is trigger based on a day and time. And the other is PLC control reporting, which generates reports on demand from the PLC. Once the Excel reporting configuration file is open, it can be seen that the configuration is implemented using few worksheets. Although there are similarities, Plc Data is two apps in one, a login and reporting app. They are totally independent applications, linked only by data parameters. For instance, the controllers and tag configurations must be the same. The generated reports are of CSV type that can be opened by Excel and several other third-party software. A controller can have many reports or one or more reports. A report can have one or more organizational sections. Each section has got a block of tags associated with it. Okay, let us go through the configuration worksheets with a bird's eye view. Number one, controllers. This is where the PLC or controllers parameters are configured. 2. Controller reports. Each controller can trigger reporting on demand. For instance, at the end of a mixer or a process cycle. A controller can have one or more reports. Report parameters are configured in this worksheet. Reports can also be triggered on a day of the week or time a day. 3. Report sections. A report is organized into sections for ease of navigation. 4. Section tags. Each section has a block of tags associated with it. These are the tags that will be reported upon when the report is triggered by the PLC or the day-time trigger. The tags associated with this section are configured in this worksheet. A tag can be associated with one or more sections. Controller type. This is the same as in login. This worksheet is protected and should not be changed. It contains information on the supported PLCs and their supported data types. Okay, let us configure our controllers. This is exactly the same configuration as the login, so we'll just go through it quickly. IP address is something we enter. Controller type is a drop-down and gives us the list of supported controllers. Then we have the rack, the slot, the port, and the connection timeout. Again, the port is something set by the vendors, like Siemens, Allen Bradley, Rockwell, and so on, and should not need to be changed. And also please remember, if you want to add new records, to expand your table by pressing the plus button. If at the end you are left with blank rows, just trim them by pressing the minus button. Okay, now that we have configured our controllers, we can move on to configure the reports, controller reports. Each controller has one or more reports. Each report has several sections associated with it. When the PLC requests a report, the associated section tags are retrieved from the database. There are two possible modes for generating the CSV reports: day of the week and time trigger, and or PLC trigger. The modes work hand in hand together, and they are mutually exclusive and independent of each other. The controller reports configuration comprises 4 sections: the settings section, the day-time trigger section, the PLC report create section, and the report created acknowledge section. Settings configuration. In this section, we configure the controller IP. A controller can have one or more reports. This is the IP address of the PLC for which reports are configured. Only configured controllers can be selected. As you can see, this is a drop-down that shows us the pre-configured controllers. Report name. This identifies the report, i.e. mixing report. Several PLCs can have the same report name. The report name is scoped to a PLC. Enable or disable creation. This enables or disables report creation. If a report is disabled, no report generation occurs, even if the PLC or daytime trigger requests it. Directory path. This is the path where the report files are stored. Different reports can have different storage path. Okay, trigger section. Day of the week. This is a day of the week trigger for report generation. This works in conjunction with the time configuration. This is usually used for weekly reports. Time. This is the time of day when the report is generated. If the day of the week is blank, this will generate reports daily. Number of previous days. This is the number of days worth of data to include in the report. For instance, for a weekly report, it could be 7 days. Check interval. This is how frequent PLC data will listen for report generation requests from the PLC. Report create section. The create report tag PLC address is what PLC data listens for when it goes from off to on PLC Data generates the requested report by querying the SQL Server database. The Create report is optional. If the PLC address is left blank, then reports will be generated according to the day and time trigger settings. If Create Report tag has a PLC address field, then the report is deemed to also be PLC controlled. When PLC Data has generated the requested report, it turns off the Create Report flag and sends back a signal to the PLC to indicate the requested report has been generated by turning the report created acknowledge to on. Report created acknowledge. Once report generation is complete, an acknowledge signal is sent back to the PLC. PLC Data always turns the acknowledge tag to off before generating a report. Okay, now that we have configured our controller reports, let's move on to the report sections worksheet to configure the report sections. As you can see, this is quite simple. We have the selected controller report that is actually a drop down, and it gives us a list of reports alongside their associated PLC. So this is a selection, and the section name is something that we actually type in. And as we said before, each report has several sections to help organize the report. Each section has a block of tags associated with it. Now that we have configured our report sections, we need to configure the tags for each section. So let's move on to the section tags. On the left-hand side, you can see we have the selected controller report section. What that actually means, once controllers and their associated reports and sections have been configured, the block of tags need to be configured. Only configured controller report sections can be selected. And this drop down here shows us controller report section already configured. The rest of the columns, friendly name, description, PLC address, PLC data type, units, is for the tags. So let's just have a quick look here and see what we've got. If we look at the Siemens PLC, which ends in 155, you can see that we have one report, which is the S7 mixing report. And the mixing report has got two sections, Section 1 and Section 2. Section 1 has got 6 tags, and so on. It's the same for the control logics, and it's the same for the PLC. Okay, our configuration is now complete. And just to summarize, we first configured the controllers, then controllers report, and then report sections, and then section tags. You can also use the XML reporting configuration file to configure reports. The XML configuration file and the Excel reporting configuration file do not conflict. They work together. It's not either or, it's both. Okay, so you can either use the XML, use the Excel, or use both. And let's also remember that if you want more information, to go to the controller type worksheet. And in there, you can see the supported controllers and their associated supported data types.